The latest episode of Blue Bloods saw Danny Reagan finally getting back onto the dating scene. But as happy as Danny probably is to be moving forward again, the same can't be said about fans. Blue Bloods fans react to Danny Reagan again, and let me tell you, they're not amused. Could this be a sign that season 15 of Blue Bloods will be its last? Before we get into that, though, let it be known that it's absolutely great that Danny is finally ready to put himself out there and try to find love again.
The only person responsible for this is the shooter, right?
Says the guy who storms into my office every other week to complain about the justice system.
It's been about a decade since his wife, Linda, died in a tragic accident. So you'd think that fans would be elated to see him get out there after all this time. Well, maybe that would have been the case if our beloved Danny had been looking in the right direction. Danny Reagan and Detective Maria Baez have a long history together, and their subtle courtship has had Blue Blood fans gripped to the CBS drama for years now. So, as you can probably imagine, when Laura Acosta suddenly walked onto the scene and caught Danny's attention, fans went a bit berserk. It all happened in the episode in which Danny and Laura had a history that stemmed way back to the night of the accident that ended up claiming Linda's life. Little did we know that Laura was actually harboring the repercussions of a painful injury that she sustained in the line of duty around the same time that Linda died. But now, Laura was set on retirement, and everything was going fine for Laura until she heard the news that she wouldn't actually qualify for a full disability pension. This naturally led to Frank taking an interest in her case. And while Sid was fighting in Laura's corner, Frank soon learns that Danny is also firmly on her side. And we'll all have to admit, for a rather touching reason as well, as it turns out, Laura was hurt during a car chase that took place during a shift she'd taken to cover for Danny when he was grieving the loss of Linda. Obviously, Laura is convinced that Danny would have felt guilty about the incident for the rest of his life. But as Frank poked a bit at Danny about their connection, it slowly became clear that there was a much deeper connection here. In fact, Frank discovers that Danny's support for Laura comes from a place of deep affection. It's why Frank decides it's time to pass on some solid wisdom onto his son. Don't make the same mistake that your grandfather and I did after being widowed ourselves, Frank told him with feeling. Danny took his father's advice and decided to meet Laura for a drink, where he was also able to share the news that her full disability pension had been granted with her. And he even promised that this wouldn't be their only meeting with one another now they're connected. The episode, called Lost Ones, ends on an almighty cliffhanger regarding Danny's romantic future.
Got it. Any advice from you?
Take your time and be yourself. And whatever you do, lie about how crazy your family is.
But now, the Blue Blood stalwart is obviously open to finding a new partner again. Many have been fuming at the mouths over the fact that the writers appear to have completely dismissed Baez's character.
For everything.
This isn't funny, you know. They weren't your cuffs on them.
I'm not saying it's funny. I'm just saying it's only as bad as we allow it to be.
And it's
Sure, if you forget about Baez for a moment, this storyline is pretty cute. It could be the start of a great Nicholas Sparks novel. But no one wants to forget about Baez. Well, the Blue Bloods fans at least. Some rightly pointed out that this won't change a thing. Just because the writers have decided to bring in some competition doesn't mean that we'll suddenly stop wanting for Danny and Baez to finally find each other. The only thing this will do is make fans complain even louder. Because let's face the facts here, people. Baez was there when Linda died, okay? We've all been watching this relationship develop on screen for a literal decade. And now suddenly they're going to tell us that some random character that we've never seen before has all this history and none of that matters anymore? Yeah, it's just not gonna work. Sorry.
Be honest, you feel a little better about the whole Sonny thing, huh?
Well, you mean Sonny, the vigilante escaped fugitive?
Well, there's that.
There's only that.
But while most people were seemingly very upset that this new character could very well ruin everything we've been hoping for the last 10 years, there were some who were able to see the bigger picture. Isn't the fact that Danny won't be alone forever if he finds a new partner the most important thing here? And then there are those who were never a fan of coupling Danny and Baez together to start with, of course. According to them, Danny and Laura actually had an amazing chemistry together, and she would certainly make a great addition to the table, don't you think? Objectively speaking, but even those who are a little less critical of Danny's choices generally also think that pairing him up with a completely new character is a bit strange. In fact, it probably would have made a lot more sense if they had simply brought back the psychic Maggie. At least there would be actual history there, as in history that we all know about and could work with, not a newly found history that fans get sucker punched with for no good reason. No, people are not a fan of Laura, and it's understandable that they feel ruthlessly ignored. It's not as if we've been keeping it a secret that we want Danny and Baez to get together. So, what do we do if Danny and Laura really start to hit it off? Could it be that he still needs a rebound, even after a decade? And if so, will there be enough time left in the series' existence for everything to be fixed? Or could it be that season 15 of Blue Bloods will be its last? Not that the show has suffered an enduring decline in viewership or anything, but it has been on air for a long time now. And all good things must come to an end eventually. It's also better to decide to go out on a high, rather than milking something until it's spread out so thin it's no longer even recognizable anymore. Before season 13 of Blue Bloods premiered, Tom Selleck was asked whether he'd be up for going into season 15. The actor replied that he still has a mortgage to pay, so he's game if everyone else is as well, which means that there is plenty of time to tie up any loose ends that may be lingering around still. The younger part of the cast would have a chance to move on with their lives and careers, and there would also still be time for Danny and Baez to finally stop playing around and just get together already. TV Insider recently held a poll, which revealed that most people agree that Blue Bloods should continue as long as Tom Selleck remains on board. And quite a few people were convinced that Blue Bloods should continue, period. While it remains to be seen whether the results of a poll like this has any influence on the plans of the showrunners or not, at the end of the day, of course, we all want Danny to be happy. But if he could just go ahead and do that with Baez, that would be great. Thanks! Because we really haven't just spent the last 10 years hoping for Danny and Baez to get together, only to be blindsided by this. Come on, they can't be serious, can they? We'll have to wait and see what happens next when Blue Bloods returns on the 3rd of February, 2023. But that was Blue Bloods fans reacting to Danny Reagan dating again.